Hello, everyone. It's Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and we're back here today with another top 5 list from Kaladesh. Today, we're heading to the red cards. I got Chaz with me again. How you doing, Chaz?
I'm doing well. What's up, Seth?
Ready to talk some exciting red cards.
Yes, we are.
Let's jump right into it. Number 5 on our list, we have a card that people have been calling Nerd Ape, Inventor's Apprentice.
I like that. I don't know where these people come up with this. I really like that. Yeah, this is pretty good. It's not Toolcraft Exemplar, but I don't think many things will be. But if you're playing one drops and playing artifacts and an aggressive shell, you pretty much have to play Inventor's Apprentice. I really like this card, and again, it's just not totally awful later on in the game. Still, a 2/3 is great return on a one drop card.
Yeah, I mean, it's a one-drop Stonewall, Sylvan Advocate,
Yep.
Stonewall's Reflector Mage, plus it's just aggressive, and as we talked about with the white cards, with Toolcraft Exemplar, pretty easy to get a artifact on the battlefield at turn 2, and one-drops that can attack for 2 are usually playable, and one-drops that can attack for 2 and have 3 toughness are very strong. It is Curd Ape stats, so I think this is going to end up being best friends with Toolcraft Exemplar. You can build a Boros artifact slash vehicle aggro deck, and this is going to be a premium one drop in a deck like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that it crews some really key vehicles as well, even in the late game. As long as you drop it, it's a 2/3, so you still get to crew even without haste. So yeah, I mean, as a one drop, like you said, it pairs really nicely with the Exemplar.
All right, moving on from the world of uncommons to the world of mythics, we have the red version of the Gear Hulk, combustible Gear Hulk. So, Jazz, we've been talking about Gear Hulks pretty much every single day. What do you think about this one?
Yeah, we have to talk about them every single day. They're a great cycle in this set, and they're premier mythics. I don't know if everyone is as high on the Gear Hulk as I am. I think this is pretty good, even as a Punisher triggered ability. I know people don't like Punisher abilities, but hear me out. I mean, if you rip 3 Emrakuls off the top, it's pretty much over, okay? No, honestly, though, if you're playing 6 converted mana cost creatures, I think you're going to immediately have your opponent pause, and they might not like what gets ripped off the top, especially if they're even in a pretty healthy health zone in the mid-teens, the higher teens. This creature can really do some damage, figuratively and literally, by either end of the spectrum on the browbeat, essentially, of its triggered ability.
Yeah, someone on Twitter, and I didn't catch the actual name, so I can't give them credit, unfortunately, but someone ran the numbers on this card in a Teamer Emerge shell, which is a deck that's already been seeing play, and they came up with the conclusion that 8 life is kind of the cutoff. If you are at less than 8 life, you almost have to let your opponent draw the 3 cards, because there's a more than 50-50 shot that you will die to the Combustible Gear Hulk trigger. On the other hand, if you're at above 8 life, it's probably better just to take the damage. The other thing I like about this card, and personally, this is one of the Gear Hulks I'm not as high on because there's just so much variance involved, but the one thing I do like is a 6/6 first strike is actually really hard to block. Like,
Yeah.
barring Eldrazi level creatures, you can't really just gang block it like you would a lot of other big creatures. You just block with 2, 3, 4 creatures and get it off the battlefield. That way, with first strike, that becomes really difficult. Well, moving on to number 3 on our list, we have Chandra's Mother, Pia Nalar. So, Chaz, a legendary 3-drop. What do you think about this one?
Yeah, it's Pia, and it's almost just as good as when the parents were together, Pia and Kieran Noir. Unfortunately, we don't have Kieran anymore due to story-related issues, but Pia is still alive and kicking, and card is great. I mean, you get 3 power distributed amongst 2 different creatures. This is actually a Thopter and not a Servo, so it's an evasive creature. And later on in the game, it's a great mana sink.
Yeah, that's one thing that is really nice about this card is you can do the kind of expensive fire breathing thing and get in a lot of damage. And if you're in an artifact based deck, you can even spend one extra mana and make that creature unblockable. So there's a chance that you can kind of fireball in a small artifact like the Thopter in an unblockable way and hit for 4, 5, 6 damage and really put your opponent under pressure to where they need to answer a bad creature that they don't really want to spend a removal spell on or lose a lot of life. Only thing I don't like, and it makes sense for story purposes, but it is legendary, which is
Yes.
a little bit annoying, although it's a legendary 2/2, so it's probably going to die fairly regularly in combat or to removal spells.
The legendary the clause is a concern, but we talked about on the podcast like the oaths, like how those enchantments were legendary. I think in this case, legendary could actually be a benefit when, again, you look back if you want to get a trigger out of something and you still get the 1/1 colorless Thopter as long as you cast Pia. So it might not actually be that bad.
All right, number 2 on our list, we are heading back to the world of energy with Lathnu Hellion. So, Chaz, an aggressive 3-drop, a hasty creature. What do you think about this one?
Hellions, Hellions, tomatoes, who cares, right? No, but I think other than spending a few minutes making sure we pronounce this right, this is, again, a premier aggressive red card. We've seen a few of these in the last few sets. It seems like we're almost there. Red might get back on the back to the forefront here of being somewhat relevant. I like it. Lathnu Hellion is a self-contained card. It provides its own energy in order to not die or be sacrificed, and I think it's great. It has haste, it's very aggressive, and it's just all around a good investment for the 3 mana cost.
Yeah, this card is interesting. When I first saw it, I pretty much wrote it off completely, but as the rest of the set was spoiled, there's actually a lot of good ways to make energy, so it's pretty possible that you can keep this around for quite a while. So I think that in that sense, it's better than I initially thought it would be, and a lot of people are excited about a green-red energy aggro deck based on some of the other cards in the set, and this could very easily be a part of it. I think that one of the downsides is it doesn't have any real evasion. So if we're playing in a world where there's lots of servo tokens running around, it might run into this problem where it gets chump blocked for a few turns and then dies when you run out of energy. But even in that case, I don't think it's necessarily bad because a hasty 4/4 for 3 is significantly above the curve.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, you do run into that problem. I do like that the cards around this card, even in the curve, we're going to talk about a card later on in videos, Voltaic Brawler, gives you 2 energy. So whether you want to be using the energy for one card or another, I think this is going to test how well you manage your energy resource.
Well, last but not least, we're going a little bit predictable with our number 1 red card.
Yes.
We have Chandra, Torch of Defiance. So, Chaz, take it away.
It is predictable, and while it's not my pick for the best Planeswalker in the entire set, so you'd have to listen to the podcast. But, yes, Chandra, I think, is far and away the best red card to talk about. Obviously, it's a 4-mana walker with 4 abilities. It's not something we've seen in quite some time since, well, Jace the Mind Sculptor. But I think that's where the comparison ends. Jace obviously being a lot more powerful. But Chandra, I think, has a very, very good chance of seeing playing standard.
Yeah, we have talked about this card at length on the podcast and in some other places. I think this is the best Planeswalker in the set. I think Dovin Baan actually gives it somewhat of a run for the money, but I think if you had to just pick the best Planeswalker in the set, in my opinion, Chandra is it. I think it is extremely powerful. I think she will be a standard staple if Red is good. She will be one of the better cards in Standard. And she will likely show up here and there in Modern as well, in place of Chandra Pyromaster, which sees a bit of play. In Modern, it's a little risky. There's a lot of competition in the 4-drop slot in decks that could play her. But this card is very good, and I think one thing that we probably would both agree on is this is the best Chandra that's ever been printed.
Yeah, I'll definitely agree with that. It's Chandra has a lot of iterations, and they've all mostly been disappointing. The Pyromaster, like you said, is kind of the last even close to remotely good Chandra card that we've seen. But I think this easily trumps it. And like you said, if you're playing Chandra Pyromaster, you're likely going to switch over to Chandra Torch of Defiance. It's a great card. It's everything you want in a Planeswalker wrapped up into 4 abilities. It protects itself. It advances your board. It has an immediate impact. And the ultimate can pretty much just win the game. Even though it's not, we don't try to generally look at Planeswalkers just based on their ultimate, it is still great. So it's doing a lot of good things, all wrapped up into one nice little package.
All right, well, that has been our top 5 red cards from Kaladesh. We'll be back tomorrow with another color. In the meantime, thanks again, Jazz, for hanging out, and I will talk to you tomorrow.
Yeah, it's been awesome. See you all tomorrow.